Hi, this is Missy with Southern Theory Designs, and I am going to do a really quick tutorial on how to get started on doing glitter tumblers and kind of everything you need to get going. It's going to be step by step. I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to actually do it, if that makes sense. So just follow along with me. And this is going to be for those of you who have never done a cup before and want to get started. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need is a tumbler, and I do have a spare. This is my spare one, and sorry I have to get off screen to get it, but I only have so much space on my workstation. So you're going to want to get a tumbler or a spinner, turner, whatever you want to call it. This one is one that my friend got off of Amazon. It's not very expensive, and I'm actually just going to take the motor out of it and have my husband build me an extra tumbler holder so all of them are together. So you're going to need your tumbler. Put that over here. We call them turners. We call them tumblers half the time. Sorry. I use PVC, and my turner is set up. I lock it in right here. My husband has made a notch, so I lock it in there. And you're gonna want something to be able to hold your cups onto your PVC pipe. This is what you're gonna hold every time you do your cup, from the time you clean it with your alcohol to when you're putting it on your drying rack, okay? So some people use these. I love these. These are actually my favorite. But a lot of people will use pool noodles, which I find my cups fall off of. So I don't use those. Some people even use footballs, the little foam footballs that you can get from the dollar store. They don't work for me either because my cups end up sitting cockeyed on them. Then what you're gonna need is cups. So I've already sanded this cup. I just put it back in the box to protect it. I'm running out of space. And what you want to do to first prep your cup is you're going to want to sand it. I'll sit here and touch it while I'm sanding it. And then I use 60 grit. Some people will use a finer. Some people will use rougher. Some people have machines. This works best for me. And what you do is you're gonna sand it until you start smelling a metal, and that's breaking through the clear barrier on the outside of your tumbler. This one, you can see it's really sanded down pretty good. And don't forget to hit the bottom of it, and you wanna get the lip too. So you wanna sand this all down. Once you finish sanding your cup down, you're gonna wanna wipe off the dust particles. So I use a little spray bottle and a paper towel. This is alcohol, just regular everyday alcohol that you buy in the store. I think it's 91% or something like that. Just go to the dollar store and get some alcohol and use that and your paper towel to wipe off the dust and everything from your tumbler. Then usually what I'll do, for you new people out there, I don't do it anymore, and I probably should, but I don't have that much of a problem. You're gonna want to take painter's tape or electrical tape, and you wanna tape the inside of it, and I'll kind of show you how to do that really quick. If I can get this tape off of there. Don't wanna break a nail. I'm just gonna use a small piece. So you're gonna take your tumbler, and you're gonna wanna just tape the inside of it. See how you tape the inside of it? And you probably wanna do a better job of getting it closer to the rim and even. You don't want it to come over the lip because you're gonna wanna epoxy that lip, okay? Once you do that, you're gonna take your PVC pipe that has your cup holder on it, and you're gonna put it inside, okay? So now you have the perfect holder to hold it. Then you're gonna take it inside, and you're gonna use Dawn dishwashing liquid just a little bit of it, not a lot, and you want to clean it. Make sure it's nice and clean and dry. I usually let mine air dry for a little bit afterwards just to make sure there's no water on it. I don't have any spray paint in front of me right now, but let me see if I have. I do. It's right here. This is my favorite spray paint, and this is what I found works best for me. It is the 2X Ultra Cover, and don't get gloss. Don't get clear and don't get gloss. This is for other things that I use. This is for my water slides, but the 2X Ultra Cover is the best. You want to get it in a flat or a matte. Remember that. If you get gloss, you're gonna get runs. You're gonna get streaks. It's gonna drip a little bit more. So once to prep your cup, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go outside in a well-ventilated area. And what I use to spray paint my cups to hold them so I don't end up spray painting my hand is I have a tomato cage, you know, the ones you put over the tomatoes and your tomato can grow up it. I have it turned upside down, and the things that you stick in the soil, I have sticking up. So I have 4 places to put 4 different tumblers, especially if I'm doing the same color. I'll just put them all on there and just walk around and spray them. Well, you're gonna put them on whatever you have to hold it, or you can hold it, wear a glove, because you will end up getting spray paint all over your hand. So you're gonna spray paint and pretend this is a white flat or black flat, whatever flat or matte color that you want that's going to complement the glitter or the mica that you're gonna use on your cup. So say that I was going to use like a baby pink glitter, then I would want to get like a baby pink or a light pink colored spray paint. So you want to be 10 to 12 inches away, like this. Can you see? 10 to 12 inches away, and light burst, just very light burst. You're not going to get full coverage the first time you go around it. Let it dry a little. Don't forget to hit the top. And I always go at a downward angle so I don't get any up inside there. So I go at a downward angle, about 10 to 12 inches, and I go around with a nice light coat, and then I'll go do it again. And I'll do it as many times as I need to get full coverage. I usually wait about 5 minutes in between coats to do it. This way I get a nice smooth finish. I don't have to worry about streaks. Again, matte or flat, that's going to be your best bet. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can apply your glitter. I prefer to use the epoxy method now. I used to use the Loctite method, and it works fabulous for me. But in some applications, you're gonna need to use the Loctite. I use Loctite when I do ombres, when I do multiple colors, things like that. So the Loctite that you're gonna wanna use is the Loctite 200 middle, and that's going to be this. Do not get the other ones because it's gonna come out bumpy and foamy, and it's not what you want. This is basically a glue that you can use for your headliner in your cars. I don't even think they have headliners anymore, but you can spray it, and it's a real nice thin spray adhesive. I do have some other spray adhesive that I've used in the past. Sorry, making a mess over here. I've used this in the past. Not a fan of it. Sometimes it gets a little gunked up. Before you spray it though, make sure you clean your nozzle because it is glue and it gets like caked up on there and you're not gonna get an even spray. So take your Loctite, and sometimes I'll use my same tomato cage that I spray paint on, and you're just gonna do a nice even all over, and don't forget the bottoms. Don't forget the bottoms. Nice thin layer of the Loctite. Now, you don't have a lot of time when you're using the Loctite. You don't have a lot of time to work with. So usually what I will do is as soon as I finish the Loctite, I run inside and I actually put it on my turner. Like this. I'll put it on my turner. Let me see if you can, this is a mess down here. So here's your turner, and you're gonna turn your turner on. This, it might help a little bit. So you can see it's turning. I usually have a tin pan underneath it. I usually put a tin pan underneath it. I put parchment paper in it, or I even have the silicone mats that I'll put on there. So this way, if you drop any epoxy on there, then it will catch it. And when it dries, you can just peel it right up and throw it away. It's really easy that way. So now that your tumbler is prepped and you have Loctite on it, you're gonna have your tin pan underneath it. You're going to want to apply your glitter. Well, yeah, you're gonna want to apply your glitter. So pick out any of your glitters that you want. I'm just gonna pull one out of my drawer here. Okay, so this is Diamond Dust by Glitter Glams. This is this glitter. Okay, this is a whole different, if you wanna learn how to do this, look on my YouTube channel for the tack it method, and that's how you get this. This is a holographic glitter, but you can use any glitter. I do love glitters from Michaels and Hobby Lobby and everything like that. Works really great for me. So now your glitter, your tumbler is turning, you have your glitter, and you're just gonna get it on until it's a nice coat, okay? Don't forget the bottoms. You can take it off your turner, and then you're gonna go ahead and glitter. And then what I do is I hold it over whatever I have underneath it, and you're gonna tap it and tap it. Just tap it like that, but not with your ring. You're not gonna hit the tumbler with your ring, and you're gonna tap it, okay? And then you're gonna let it dry. While it's drying, what I usually do is I use paper plates sometimes, and I'll pick up my paper plate and then I'll pour my extras back in, my glitter shakers. And put that on there so it's out of the way. So you want to give this time to dry, and I think this usually dries in like 15 minutes or so. It's pretty quick. It's not bad at all. Now you're gonna go and seal your glitter on there because you don't want it to come off. You don't want it to move when you're actually laying your epoxy. So I use Krylon Sealer Clear. This stuff works really great. You need to take it outside once your Loctite is dry, take it outside and just do the same as if you were spray painting it, but you don't have to, you know, make sure you don't have to go back 2 or 3 times. You just do it on there. Don't forget the bottom, okay? That's gonna seal your glitter. You'll have very little fall off from there. You might see a little bit, but you shouldn't have a lot, especially if you got a nice coat of the Loctite, but not too much, but a good coat of the Loctite. It's a learning curve. You'll figure it out, I promise you. Then you're gonna want to let that dry. Usually I let all that dry overnight, and the next morning, or next day when I get a chance, then it's time to do your epoxy. So I'm gonna put this back on here, and now we'll learn how to do epoxy. I hope you're following along. I am talking a little fast, I know, but I'm trying to make this as short as possible. All epoxies are not created equally. Some of them smell really bad. Some of them don't have a UV. Some have a UV. There's all different kinds that you can use. I'm going to show you what you really need to use. Sorry, I haven't used epoxy since last night. Let me take this out. All epoxies are toxic. I don't care what anyone tells you, but all epoxies are toxic when they're wet. That means until they have a full cure, breathing in the fumes can cause you illness, either right away with allergies or down the line, and we won't go into that because they're kind of scary, some things that you can get from epoxies and polyurethanes and everything like that. I recommend a respirator. This is a really nice one I got from 3M. I think I paid $30 for the whole kit and caboodle. You want to get one that is, I believe it's organic. Just look for the pink ones. This is what they look like. And you buy this, and then you can buy these separately, okay? So you want to wear this when you're using, and it's really not that bad. Just, Luke, I am your father. It's kind of fun, but you still need to use this until your epoxies are dry. Do not epoxy in your house. Epoxy is toxic, like I said, so you want to be in a well-ventilated area, even if you're using a PPE, personal protective equipment. My resin of choice is art resin. I get this at Hobby Lobby. You can get it offline. I'm not endorsing them. They don't pay me to endorse them, but I have tried everything from Alumilite to KS resin. Not bagging on them, but where I live in Savannah, Georgia, it doesn't work down here. The Alumilite is not as crystal clear as I like, so I tried this one, fell in love with this, and then I tried the KS resin because I heard so many wonderful stories about it. But with the high heat, humidity down here, I was getting fish eyes, and I tried and tried again, and I just came back to the KS resin. But whatever you do, make sure you read the instructions. Most of the epoxies today are 1-to-1 ratio. So for 1 ml of hardener, you're gonna use 1 ml of resin. And how I do that is I have holes in the top of my epoxy bottles, and that's what I use. This way, when I need it, I turn it upside down, and I draw out exactly how much I need. And you can see this one is blue because this one is for my hardener. And I get these off of Amazon. And the one that's not blue is for my resin. I do not mix the two up, or then you'll just have a sticky mess and you'll have to throw your syringes away. If you don't have that, if you're just starting out, I highly recommend little medicine cups. You can get them really cheap off of Amazon, or you can get them at Hobby Lobby. They have them at Michael's, and on them you will see that they have the little mLs on the side of them. It's the chunkier your glitter is going to be, the more epoxy you're going to need for the first layer, because it actually is going to like suck in the epoxy. I think it's because there's so many crevices in there. So the cup that I have right now is a 30 ounce, so I would make 15 ounces of each, and I would start from there. We're not going to go into the flood coat method. That's a whole different learning curve right there. Well, how I'm going to tell you to do it is how just to put your first layer of epoxy on. So you're going to put your respirator on. Put your respirator on. You're going to measure out your hardener, and you can pour it in here, and then get a second cup, and then pour your resin in there and make sure they're perfectly even. That's if you're not using syringes or anything, and you can tell in here, there's little numbers. Make sure they're perfectly even. If they are off by a little bit, it's going to be tacky and it's not going to harden correctly, and you're going to have to strip it. And I'll explain how to strip it at the end of this video. So now that you've had you got your epoxy all mixed up in these little cups, I usually will pour them into a Dixie cup or a bigger medicine cup, depends on how much you're using. A lot of people say don't use these because if you scrape too hard, the wax will get in there. I haven't had that problem because I use metal stirring sticks for the most part. You don't have to use the metal stirring sticks. I get these off of Amazon, and I sit there and I real slow. You want to mix your epoxy for about 3 minutes, and I usually just say, hey Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes. Boom, she sets the timer for 3 minutes, and then she tells me when I'm done. So you're going to stir, and then you're going to wipe it off in here, and then you're going to stir again. And you're going to want to make sure you get down into the crevices and everything, and you're going to scrape it along the sides to make sure it's fully mixed. You can use tongue depressors. You can use tongue depressors if you want. They work exactly the same, okay? You might see some micro bubbles in there. If you see some micro bubbles, you can get a little thing of water, hot water, and set it in there for a couple minutes, and those air bubbles will come to the top, and they'll pop. Sorry. So now that we have our epoxy mixed, our glitter on the prepped cup, and the sealer on there, we're ready to start our epoxy application. You want to use gloves. You want nitrile gloves. They don't have any powder on them, and you can get them wherever. I don't like the clear ones that they sell at Hobby Lobby and Michael's because they're just too big for my hands. So I get these from the medical supply store, and of course my husband bought me mediums, not smalls. So they're a little bigger than I like, but I'm trying to burn through this box so I can get back to my smalls. So what you're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put this down, and we're gonna pretend that my cup is glittered and ready for epoxy, okay? I have my glove on, I have my epoxy. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put some epoxy on here, and I always go in like small circular motions. And then I go down, and then I go up, up, and make sure nothing's dripping. Then I'm gonna turn my tumbler, and then I'm gonna pour some more, and then I'm gonna rub, and then I'm gonna turn it again. And you're gonna do this until you go all the way around your tumbler, and then you're gonna take some, and you're gonna make sure you hit the bottom, okay? If you have any left over, just make sure you put it all out, put it on your tumbler, put it down here, and it's gonna be spinning. Now you have successfully put your epoxy on your glittered tumbler. Move back into frame here. You're done for now. You're gonna let it spin for 4 to 6 hours. Don't come out here touching it to see if it's ready or anything like that, but you can leave it. If you notice that you have any micro bubbles in it, there are a couple ways that you can help that along, because you really don't want the micro bubbles. It weakens your epoxy. You're gonna want no bubbles. So one time, bubbles aren't good. You can use one of two things. When I first started out, mine looks like a train wreck, but I'll show you really quick. I'm dropping things left and right. I have a heat gun. Very gently. You're gonna hit it with the heat gun. You don't want to do that too much, because you will heat up your epoxy way too much and it will just fall off. You'll get fish eyes, you know, so you don't want to use it too much. What I found with this art resin, it doesn't mind the heat at all. That's another reason why I use it. It likes the heat, it likes the humidity, it's cool with it. But when you get to your second and third coats of epoxy after you've done your first one, you're gonna want a torch. Pretty cool. I think I got this one for like $12, and then I had to buy the butane to fill it with. On your second and third coats, if you're seeing any kind of micro bubbles, you just hit it. Hit it. Someone said, hit it and quit it. Hit it and quit it. Okay? Just where the bubbles are, and that will get rid of the bubbles. After you've let it, so we're still on our first coat of epoxy. You're letting it go 4 to 6 hours. Come back in about 4 to 6 hours, and you can just gently, with a gloved finger, really, you can just very lightly touch the edge. And if it's any tack to it, just let it go. Just let it go. At first, I wasn't letting it go, and I put it on my drying rack, and I was seeing ripples. So now I've learned to just be patient. Just let it turn, okay? When you come out here and you can feel it, usually about the 5-6 hour mark, and your finger's not sticking to it, go ahead, turn off your tumbler, whatever you want to call it. Take it off if it wants to come off, and set it on your drying rack. I have these nifty little things my husband made me. And I have little places to set them in so they don't fall over. And this is where you're gonna leave it for 24 hours. Make sure that you don't touch it before the 24 hours, because it's not fully cured. You don't want to epoxy over uncured epoxy. If you do that, it's going to seep toxic epoxy fumes, and it can make somebody sick. So you just want to make sure that you're careful with that. Okay, so now we'll get another one. We'll get one that's this one. Okay, so depending on the type of glitter you used, if you used a chunky glitter, it's going to take you more coats than if you used, like I did on this one, the tack it method, which laid it down really flat, or a finer glitter. So Now this has been sitting for 24 hours. Actually, I think it's been longer, but pretend this has been sitting for 24 hours and I've seen a couple little bumps in it. I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm not gonna sand it yet because I only have one coat of epoxy on it. I'm gonna put it back on my churner and I'm gonna repeat the process of the epoxy, adding the epoxy to it. And if I see any micro bubbles, I'm gonna hit it with this, or I'm gonna hit it with my heat gun. And I'm gonna let it spin again for 4 to 6 hours until it fully dries. When it's fully dried, I'm gonna put it back on the drying rack and let it cure for another 24 hours. You need to make sure that you're letting it dry. So now you've done 2 coats of epoxy and you're still seeing just like a little bump here, a little bump here, and around your edge, it's feeling a little bit rough. What you're gonna do is, let me see if I can get this out without destroying everything. I use this. You can use a finer grit, but I wouldn't go any rougher than this. This is a wet or dry sandpaper. And this is what I use to smooth out any imperfections I might have in my cup. Oh, my back hurts, I'm scrunching. So what I'll do is I'll take just a little piece of it. I'll go inside my house and I'll put on lukewarm water, not hot because it's still, curing. Your epoxy does not get a full cure for 3 to 7 days, depending on which epoxy you use. But after 24 hours, it's good. It's pretty dry to start doing this part. You're gonna go and you're just going to sand very gently the areas that are rough, sand around the top edges of your cup. You're gonna go ahead and I usually clean it off with alcohol, and then I lay my decals, my water slides. If it's a water slide, I let it dry for 24 hours. If it's a decal, good to go. You just make sure it's nice, level, because nobody wants a crooked decal. And then I lay another coat of epoxy, and if I need one more, then I'll hit it one more time. So we're talking 3 to 4 layers of epoxy, depending on, the design or anything like that. Once that is done, I might have to back up here because I probably forgot a step that I do. So after my second layer of epoxy, when I'm sanding, I usually would take an X-Acto knife, one of these. I love these things. You need to be really careful with them. And while I'm inside, cleaning it up and everything, sanding down any pieces, I will take this and I will go around the top and just make sure it's nice and smooth on here because you don't want any glitter here. I do have some. I haven't hit this one yet. So do around here and just sand very lightly. Just take your wet, dry sandpaper and just very gently smooth it out so it's nice and smooth. And then when you go to put on your decals and then your next epoxy, what you're gonna wanna do is when you come up to the top, I just go down a little. I just go down like that. This way it seals your epoxy in because you don't want water to get in the top of your lip. So you're just gonna go down. And it's okay now to have a clear layer of epoxy on top of your rim. No one's gonna see it, and it seals everything in. This way you have a nice tight seal. You're not gonna get water under the epoxy and ruin the cup for the customer. So now we've done everything. We got our decals on, we got our final coats of epoxy on. And when you lay your decal, if you notice that you're seeing a little ripple in it, you can mix up some epoxy really quick and do that. I usually just wait for it to dry and do one more coat over it until I have a nice cover and you don't see any outlines of your epoxy. If you try to lay your decal on epoxy that's not sanded or smooth, you're gonna see it. You're gonna have bumps in your decals, and nobody wants that because it just looks cheap. It looks like you're just learning. So make sure you sand it really nice to a smooth finish before you lay your decals and everything. So now your cup is complete and it's at the curing stage. The curing stage, you're gonna wanna let it sit in whatever temperature your epoxy says. It usually will tell you back here, or you can go on the website for the epoxy and it will tell you what the temperature is, but I usually do it about 76 to 80 degrees. If it's summer, I leave it in my garage. If it's the winter, I'll bring it in, and sometimes I'll put it in my laundry room where it's warmer, and I'll just leave it. I will forget about it for 3 to 7 days, just depending on, you know, who it's for and everything like that. Sometimes I get lucky and someone will be like, just send it to me in a couple weeks and I'm good. That's fine for me, because then I know it's cured. At this point, you cannot drop your tumbler because it will crack, and you will, I've dropped a tumbler when I was finished with it, and you can tell when you've dropped it. You've broken the seal and you're gonna have to fix it. The one last thing I wanted to let you know is if you screw a cup up, it's okay. Do not throw that cup away. I'm gonna show you what you're gonna do. This is my stripping bucket, okay? And this is my stripper. What you do is just a little bit, it goes a long way. Take a little bit of the acetone, put it in the bottom of the bucket. Take the cup that you want to strip, like, oh crap, this looks horrible. I'm not throwing away a $9, $8, however much I paid for this tumbler. I'm gonna take the tumbler, open side up, set it inside the bucket, close the bucket, forget about it. Forget about it for about 2 days, and then go back and check it. And then you will notice there is no more epoxy on there. Now you might have a little bit of glitter still on there. That's easy enough to get off. Just take some sandpaper, sand it really good, and it will come off. And if you have any of the Loctite left, take some of your acetone. Use gloves, because you don't want to mess up your manicure. Take some of the acetone and just wipe it off. It comes out. This one actually has been stripped twice. So I was trying to do something and it looked like shit. So that's how you strip a cup. And look how good it looks. It looks brand new again. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm not a pro. This is just a hobby that I do, but I spend my days when I'm at work watching videos on all this stuff. So I'm learning. I've learned a lot by watching the videos. Some of these ladies are amazing, and they have really great tutorial videos. This was kind of just like a really quick rundown because somebody was asking on Facebook questions and nobody else was answering. So I figured the easiest way to do it is to sit here and kind of show you the steps that you go through to make a tumbler. If anyone tells you that they can make you a tumbler in under 5 days and have it delivered to you, no. You want to make sure you wait 24 hours in between every step. So we'll go over those really quick. First step is going to be sanding, prepping, painting, 1 day. The next day, you're going to glitter, your Loctite, glitter, and seal. So there's 2 days. Then you're going to do your first coat of epoxy, your 3rd day. Your 4th day, you're going to do your 2nd coat of epoxy. Okay. 5th day, you're going to sand. Hopefully, you have enough epoxy on there to sand. So now you're at 5 days. You're going to lay your decals on day 6 and epoxy. And then from there, you're going to make sure that it looks good. If you need 1 more coat of epoxy, you have another day. Day 7 is another coat of epoxy. Everything looks good from there. That's great because you're on 7 days. So you have to let it cure 8, 9, 10, and sometimes 11 and 12. So you don't want to even tell anybody if that's the only cup you're working on and that's going with like no whoopses, I've got to fix this. So 10 to 14 days is a good turnaround time for 1 tumbler if that's all you're working on. If you only have 1 tumbler going, so especially if it's your first one. I hope this tutorial helps you out. Again, if you have any questions, drop them below. like me, follow me. I love to come out here and try new things on tumblers, and usually you guys will learn along with me. So have a great day, and thanks for watching. I hope this helps somebody.